Hello, and welcome once again. J76NY here, and this is episode number 14 of our playthrough of Suzerain Rizia. We are going to be getting a decision on our dispute with Pales about the oil, or the natural gas field. We also have a bit of business to attend to in regards to waste. In their investigation of the Zeal bombing. That means that Rizian security will be obliged to share any information they have found and vice versa. I was looking at this before I started recording, and it's tempting to cooperate because I don't think we have anything to hide in terms of the Zeal bombing. But I don't trust Whelan. I don't like Whelan. I don't like Victor Smolak. And I don't think that our security forces should be sharing information with Whelan. I think that Lucita would not look kindly on that. We may have some clandestine stuff going on that I do not want them to know about, so I am not going to cooperate. To hell with them. That's mostly about what it is. To hell with Whelan. So, we have average rent doubles every 18 months. A report from Porte Drizan. The average rent per square meter in the Rizian capital is skyrocketing rapidly, with experts estimating a doubling every 18 months, with no sign of slowing down. Not only are prices on the rise, a severe lack of housing stock due to the deadly combination of the city's growing population with the market speculation has resulted in the average search time for new apartments approaching almost 8 months. And then we have this. Wine exports soar amid trade surge. Rizia's vineyards are flourishing with heavy demand from a remarkable surge in wine exports, particularly to Swordland and other eastern Merkopan nations. This unexpected boon has created a significant surplus in trade, positively impacting our national budget. Our strategic decision now is how to best allocate this additional resources. We could spend it on Rizia's viticulture. Will travel around the world. Geralt of Ribri. Who the heck is that even? It's +2 on either choice. Go with that one. So now we have a +4 on our budget. Did that do anything per turn? Doesn't look like it. Swordage tourists disrupt ancient Hope site. Uh-oh. Group of tourists from Swordland caused a disturbance at the ancient resonant excavation site in Topes. The tourists, reportedly ignoring guidelines, ventured into restricted areas, damaging some recently unearthed artifacts. Local authorities have detained the individuals involved, and the incident has prompted calls for stricter enforcement of heritage site regulations. The City Council is considering implementing mandatory guided tours for foreigners to protect the site's integrity and educational value. Damn swords. Swords tourists, a blessing or a burden. Our wine and whiskey industries flourished, attracting a flood of Swordage tourists. Concerns have been raised about their impact on the Belanqua region. While the influx of visitors from Swordland following the lucrative trade and resort deals has undoubtedly boosted our economy, there is a growing unease about their sometimes snobbish and arrogant behavior. Local residents and Ventiers express mixed feelings, appreciating the economic benefits. Yep. Geopolitical says Rizia's wine exports reach new heights. Wine exports from the Kingdom of Rizia have marked a significant uptick, particularly with Swordland, signaling a strengthened position in the global market. All very good. So now... Monkeys grapples with rising tourism and trade demands. The governor of Monkeys faces new challenges as it becomes the epicenter of Rizia's surging trade, export, and tourist arrivals. The influx of visitors, especially from Swordland and the burgeoning Whan trade, have brought economic growth, but also concerns over cultural and environmental impacts. The situation is particularly strained in the entertainment district, where the blend of local tradition and foreign influence is most palpable. As Monkeys navigates these waters, balancing its historic role as a trade hub with its modern identity is proving a complex task. Yep. Now we're going right off the map with the next one. Alright. What this is all about. Yo, there's the thing I'm looking for here. Wheland announces refusal to cooperate. Wessex authorities have called our country's refusal to cooperate with them on the Zeal bombing investigation a hostile move, signaling a lack of trust and respect for our people. They continued by promising that the Wessex investigation shall be successful in finding the culprits, even without Rizian help. Don't buy it for a second. Honestly, think they had something to do with it. So, let's do this here. This is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been waiting for. It was a rainy day in Crew, one of only a handful of the island experience per year. Sounds of falling drops on the Alliance of Nations dome made for an unexpected, soothing backdrop to what I could tell was going to be a tense session. I sat with Lorenzo and the rest of the Rizian delegation in the half-full assembly hall. Today's session was to focus on South Merkopa only. Looking around the room, I could see the representatives and leaders from Whelan, Morella, Diria, and Lespia. Duke Axel Reinhardt and Patricio Alvarez entered late, deep in conversation. They nodded at each other and took seats with their respective delegations. Wonder what they're talking about. They clearly plan to put up a united front. It'll be hard to argue against them. Are you well, Your Majesty? Your father's always had a case of nerves before these sessions. Farcasia, I'm not surprised. One more royal duty that he couldn't handle. That's, I know. If Arcasia or United Katana were here today, I'd be nervous. All these others are small potatoes. I'm fine, Mr. Esquibble. I appreciate your concern. I am nervous about the arbitration case. We have a lot writing on that. I am nervous about the arbitration case, but I am also confident that the law is going to be on our side. Whether or not that makes for a good story and is going to happen, we're about to find out. We turned our attention to the front of the room as President Nines called the meeting to order. This was a special session, so the opening remarks were kept short. Before I knew it, it was time for the individual leaders of South Merkopa to present their speeches. Prime Minister Elma Sultana strode up to the podium. She had to lower the microphone to reach it. Big trouble in a small package. Hear what she has to say before passing any judgment. The Morellan leader greeted the assembly. Her voice had a melodic lilt to it that I associated with quinol. No idea what that sounds like, so you'll get my voice coming out of her mouth. Mr. President, esteemed leaders, and distinguished guests, it is my honor to speak in these hallowed halls for the first time. I come before you as a representative of the new Morella, a country committed to breaking free from the shackles of our repressive past. A country that is now truly aligned with the AN values of justice, solidarity, and human dignity, and one that is proud to build bridges with those who share our vision of a more equal society. She nodded towards the upper seats of the assembly room. I looked behind me to see Vogg's Landing Chancellor Americ Hagel applauding fiercely. I thought this was the South Merkopa session. More than one male animus in the same room is bound to spell trouble. Who invited him? I knew today would be exciting, but this is another level. We'll go with this one. Chancellor Hegel is not on the speaking program. He must have flown to Kroot solely to support Madam Prime Minister. It is a time of transition for Morella, but as we redefine our principles and our partnerships, one fact becomes abundantly clear. We can no longer abide the senseless exploitation of our land, people, and resources. Uh-oh. I knew this would be about the international trade zone. Senseless. Gold makes plenty of sense to me. Hegel put this in her head, I'm sure of it. Behind every strong woman is a crazed Volkslandian socialist. For too long, our so-called partners in the Meftium International Free Trade Zone, or MITS, have dug the ground out from under us. We've allowed them to ravage our soil and abuse our workers while reaping more than their fair share of the profits. They send security forces to guard their gold, yet leave the rest of Morella and to the mercy of dirty and terrorists. Meanwhile, the shocking lack of mining regulations in countries such as Rizia shows they are no less careless at home than abroad. Knew I shouldn't have given in to Rusty. Maybe. Not our fault that Morellian soil is so prone to cave-ins. They really give you some dumbass options to choose from here. This guy could be just a complete tool. What about the corruption in Lespian industries? Morella's international profile isn't large enough to go after countries like Lespia's stature yet. Well, what about us? I mean, come on. Morella calls on the Alliance of Nations to recognize our human rights struggle and to accept that if the Meftium ITZ is to continue, any wealth it generates must be reinvested in the Morellan people. Merrick Hegel. Brava, Madam Prime Minister. Chancellor Hegel was standing now. The other AN guests turned their heads in his direction. As fellow stewards of the International Trade Zone and fellow soldiers in the fight against imperialism, the nation of Volksland supports Morella in its journey. Must have cut a fat deal with her. Two were meeting more regularly in the weeks leading up to this session, is true. Prime Minister Sultana to continue. I thank you all for your attention today and look forward to forging a bright future for the people of South Merkopa. All of them. Moranto turned to me as the Morellan Prime Minister wrapped up her speech and returned to her seat. Seems the trade zone is getting to be more of a sticking point than I thought. Nothing's going to be decided today anyway. It's all just talk. I just hope she doesn't expect me to deal with the Diria on her behalf. I don't care what it takes. We're keeping our gold. Go with a safe bet. I'm also curious what Diria thinks of her terrorist remark, but we won't have to wait long to find out. Supreme Wise Man Horja Asmal stepped up to the stage excuse me, dressed in ceremonial robe with silver trim. Okay. Supreme Wise Man and Diria Golcondanism. Before speaking, he waved his hands in the air 6 times, representing the 6 pillars of Golcondanism. I'm surprised he flew out here. Diria's surprised Supreme Wise Man normally refrains from speaking in public. He's too busy praying in a cave. Yeah, we'll go with that one. I know very little about his activities in Diria, to be honest. His compound is shrouded in secrecy. Real David Koresh. Dear great and powerful leaders of South Merkopa, in the name of Prophet Ruhek, I salute you all. I am humble enough to know that we men alone cannot decide the fate of a continent, not without God's guidance. And it is God who has guided me here today. We are one of the few nations brave enough to let themselves be ruled by His law, but we are also a country like any other. Yet our attempts to find common ground with our neighbors have been rebuffed over and over solely on account of our beliefs. I looked over to where Alma Sultana was sitting. She was openly scowling. Prime Minister of Morella accuses us of violating our borders, yet it was not so long ago that we were one country. Because of arbitrary lines that have been drawn, my people can no longer visit the graves of their ancestors or the shrines where they once worshipped. Every single one of us, Diria, Morella, Rizia, and Whelan, we all have different views, yet we are all united by the divine path of Saint Ruhek. And it is my humble request that we Durians be able to follow that path as we have for centuries. We're getting in the part where Durians take part in violent insurgencies. Yes, he's far from the servant of peace that he makes himself out to be. On that note, concerns have been raised about the missile tests my country have been conducting. Our aim has ever been to protect our people and way of life. It is God's will that we use this technology not for evil, but to contribute to global security and stability. Alma Sultana starts laughing. God wants missiles. That's priceless. That isn't funny. It's scary. Gusher. Yeah. What's scary is if he finds the wrong buyer for this technology. How far we have fallen that the only country in South Merkopa where the pillars of Nurity still stand tall is treated as a laughingstock. You all speak of superpowers, but I know there is only one superpower we need to worry about. He pointed towards the Almighty. The sooner our nations come together under him, the sooner true peace and prosperity can be realized. Supreme Wiseman Osmal made the pillar signing in as he exited the stage. What a nut job. The chandelier is a superpower. What to do? I don't like any of these options. I really don't. I really don't like any of these options. I guess maybe I won't say this very loud. Maybe no one will hear me. Man of strong faith indeed, but faith alone won't be able to solve his country's problems. Oh, but now it's time for the real heavy artillery. He gestured to an aide to begin taking notes as President Nines announced Victor Smolak. There were some whispers from within the room as Whelan's president stepped up to the podium. He silenced them with a theatrical shushing motion and continued. Dear fellow leaders. Wish I was better at doing voices. I really do. I wish I could say I was happy to be here standing as one of the 6 proud nations of South Merkopa. And yet I feel only sorrow. Sorrow that our magnificent region has let itself be torn apart by forces greater than ourselves. I speak, of course, of Arcasia and Rumburg. Conveniently leaving out United Cantana, Whelan alienates every country around it, then blames the superpowers. What nerve? He isn't wrong. I'm not even going to read the rest of that. Yeah. Especially since he himself has well-documented ties to United Cantana. Convinced of the idea that might makes right, they sow discord among us in order to strengthen themselves. And Whelan, poor war-torn Whelan, must pay the highest price. Who among you can deny ATO's involvement in the Whelan Civil War, or Rumburg's shipping of arms to the Brutish separatist movement? Nobody in the hall said a word. Victor looked up at me directly. It is to my everlasting regret that when Whelan was at its weakest, our direct neighbors opted for an alliance with a nation that has sought to harm us at every turn. I do not blame the great kingdom of Rizia for its decision, but neither can I ignore that for the past 20 years Rumburg has maintained a present to both our north and our south. In light of that, the Rizian government's failure to denounce the perpetrators of the Zeal bombing, the most heinous terrorist attack to occur in Whelan since the Civil War, concerns me greatly, especially since the government agencies investigating the incident seem more interested in pinning the blame on Whelan than uncovering the truth. What is to stop such violence from reoccurring? What will happen to the Wessex who have made Zeal their home once Rizia, and by proxy Rumburg, regains control of the region? I am a man who respects the rule of law, yet I cannot put my country people at risk by abandoning the territory while these questions still hang in the air. I'm not going to say a word. This is why I've decided to invoke the AN Threat Mitigation Protocol for treaty obligations to delay the return of Zeal until the risk is neutralized. Well, I think we all saw that one coming. Gasps and murmurs rippled throughout the assembly. I felt many pairs of eyes on me. Bullshit. Pound your fists on the table in front of you. Or stay silent. I'll stay silent. This is unprecedented, Your Majesty. No nation has invoked this protocol since the signing of the AN Charter nearly a century ago. The murmurs in the room were growing louder. President Nines banged the gavel for silence. If I may continue, it is not my intention to keep custody of the Zeal region forever. The sooner that safety and security are restored, the sooner we may begin preparing for an orderly transition. I hope for swift cooperation from His Majesty King Romas and my fellow South Merkopan nations. Together we are strong. He raised his arms in expectation of applause and was met by silence. None of our neighbors is openly taking Whelan's side. That bodes well for us. Victor shook his head and left the stage. Boo him. There we go. Oh. So mature. Oh well. At least he knows we don't like him. I'll get in touch with Whelan's foreign minister as soon as we're back home. There may still be a way to straighten things out. He's flustered. That's why I messed up saying all that, because I was role-playing his flusterations. Now let me see if Prime Minister Alvarez has any words on the subject. Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez was next. He straightened his tie as he approached the microphone. Mr. President, may I just start by recognizing... Oh my God. May I just start by voicing my unwavering support for this fine organization and the role it plays. Were it not for the Alliance of Nations, there would be no way to stop our country's petty quarrels from devouring the world, which, ladies and gentlemen, is precisely what's in danger of happening today. The nation of Lespia has observed the gas field dispute between Palais and Rizia with some concern. We know from the past that arguments over resources can easily spiral into violence. Before arbitration concludes, we would like to beseech both nations to respect the results, whatever they may be. And we beg the AN to undergo a thorough review of the evidence before submitting their decision. For our part, it is clear that due to the small size and limited habitability of the Rizian island of Kelakabiz, the Grand Duchy of Palais has a greater claim to the field than the Kingdom of Rizia. Did I say something? I don't see the point, but if you'd like... Malarkey! Screams Amara Angle. Oh, we got him on our side, maybe. Everyone turned to look at the Vogslandian Chancellor. Hegel bowed his head. Forgive my ill-timed cough. I have a terrible cold today. I am not going to say a word. That brings me to another point I was going to make today. I speak, of course, of the conspiracy to nationalize the Meftium International Free Trade Zone. Chancellor Hegel stood up again. Alvarez ignored him. Let us not for 1 second believe that Morella is acting on its own accord. The long arm of the Cantonan Security Pact is behind this. By giving in to Prime Minister Sultana's demands, the nation of Lespia and Rizia would be effectively paying to increase United Cantanta's sphere of influence. What the hell? I know I am not alone in wanting to avoid these disastrous consequences. What does that have to do with us? He looked at the Palesian delegation. Reinhardt and his ministers politely applauded. I will remind Morella and Vogsland that the Alliance of Nations is watching, as is ATO. Any attempt to seize the international trade zone by unlawful means will be met with retaliation. That will be all. Oh. Nothing about Whelan? Not in Lespia's interest to take sides on Zeal for now. Looks like Palais is next. Duke Reinhardt stepped up to the podium. With the spotlight on the Pelesian leader, I could see that he had stubble on his chin and dark circles under his eyes. Wow, he looks like shit. Poor Axel, he must be a bundle of nerves. I hope he doesn't make a fool of himself up there. It's his first AN address, and he is quite inexperienced. Well, what about me? Duke Reinhardt cleared his throat and shuffled a few papers around. As the leader of the youngest nation in southern Merkopa, I am humbled to be in this great hall. I am fully aware that everyone else in this room has spent their lives preparing to be in power, whereas me, let's just say that calling me a dilettante would be generous. I heard laughter from around the hall. Laugh yourself. But just because I am inexperienced does not mean I am naive. The kingdom of Rizia has staked a claim to a gas field that lies in Pelesian waters, and it has refused to let go of the claim in spite of all of Palais' counteroffers. On multiple occasions, His Majesty King Romas has indicated that he considered Rizia's loss of Pales to be unfinished business. The incident in Wheland has proved the lengths to which this dangerous new monarch will go. I had nothing to do with that. Dick. In this context, it is vital that my emerging nation assert its sovereignty. We hope the Alliance of Nations Arbitration Committee sees through the kingdom's poorly justified infringement of our maritime borders, and we invite our other colleagues in this esteemed organization to engage with us as equals, irrespective of the way our neighbor has treated us. Alvarez rose to his feet. Well said, Your Grace. I'm not going to say anything. Good, Your Majesty. Don't play the aggressor. Rest assured that we will resist any further attempt to bully us into submission, and furthermore... Criminal! Duke Reinhardt looked shaken by the interjection. That didn't sound like a cough, Chancellor. No, I cannot stay silent while you make your entitled demands. Your family used Palais as a base to pillage the Zinian continent. Everything you had, you stole from someone else. And rather than give it back when the revolution forced your hand, you begged the capitalist swine of Lespia to help you hold on to your ill-gotten gains. I beg your pardon, Chancellor Hangel, but I'm not responsible for my family's sins. But you're happy to profit from them, aren't you? Up there in your glass castle, I'll tell you, Duke Reinhardt, the cracks are beginning to show. Damn, Duke Reinhardt just got haggled. What the hell? Cannot talk to the Duke that way, Chancellor Hagel. Be silent. I will applaud that. I didn't realize the Chancellor harbored such lingering resentment over Palais. I wonder if we can use that to our advantage. Me too. President Nines, this man is abusing his guest privilege. Can he be removed? After a short back and forth, President Nines issued the Chancellor a stern warning. He glared out from his seat at Duke Reinhardt as he finished his speech in a stuttering yammer. I see the Chancellor is still resentful that the people of Palais chose the firm leadership of the Reinhardt family over the chaos of revolution. Yes, the Grand Duchy aided in the colonialist aims of the Volgos Empire. But like Volksland, we are ready to put that past behind us and look forward to the future. We simply have a different vision. Palais may not yet have truly earned its spot in this assembly, but it is my hope that it will. His voice had regained its full confidence now. And any nation that attempts to stop us from doing so will be met with strong and resolute response. He rushed back to his seat as chatter erupted from the rest of the assembly. Certainly has been an eventful session, Your Majesty. I hope you're ready for your speech. I'm as ready as I'll ever be. I took a deep breath as President Nines announced my name. Lentro gave me a quick smile of encouragement as I left my seat. I stepped up to the podium to a smattering of applause. The delegations from Wheland and Pales stayed pointedly silent. Most respected leaders of South Merkopa. My monarchical forebears instilled in me a great respect for this institution and its values. This one I actually kind of want to take seriously. You heard enough today about how important the alliance and nation is, so I will get straight to the point. I'm going to politic it a little bit. As we have seen over and over throughout our history, our nations can accomplish much more together than we can apart. The AN's unwavering commitment to peace and justice in times of tension is a true inspiration. The AN's swift interference has stopped many a would-be evildoer in their tracks. Unwavering commitment to peace and justice. Justice is what I'm after. Which is why I am so saddened by the division plaguing South Merkopa. Which is why I am appealing to you all today. Lesson which all of you have apparently forgotten. Oh boy. Saddened by the division plaguing South Merkopa, most of which we're responsible for, but we'll just kind of skip over that part. I am aware that the comments made by President Victor Smolak earlier in this session demand a response from me. I cannot ignore the presence of Chancellor Hagel and his newfound interest in our neighbor. We'll take it to Smolak. I hope you all see Whelan's failure to return Zeal for what it is, a flagrant violation of international law. The AN's threat mitigation protocol can only be invoked under extreme circumstances. In my opinion, the Zeal incident is not one of them. His invocation of AN protocol was completely understandable. The transition of Zeal cannot happen until it... No, not going to agree with him. However, I do not believe that this is an appropriate forum. I invite the president of Whelan to expand on his security concerns in a private dialogue with me. I hope you all see Whelan is breaking the law. Any intelligent person can see through the concerns about security in Rumburg. This was a purely self-serving decision. The bombing was a tragedy. However, my kingdom has taken the necessary steps to ensure it will not be repeated. Here we go. Whelan's willingness to disregard the terms of the legal document has chilling implications for its relations with the rest of the continent. President Smolak pointed his finger at Rumburg, yet failed to mention the financial backing his own country has received from United Kantana. I don't think I'm going to bring anyone else in on this. The people of Zeal yearn for their home. Who is Whelan to deny it? Well, with that, so I ask you, who will join us in holding Smolak accountable? We are not fighting for a sliver of Rizia. We are fighting for the future of South Merkopa. If President Smolak does not honor the terms of our agreement, we will be forced to take matters into our own hands. That's a little inflammatory. Future of... We're not fighting for a sliver of Rizia. We're fighting for the future of South Merkopa. Prime Minister Sultana, in light of the human rights violations Whelan has committed, Morella surely cannot stay silent. Supreme Wiseman Asmal, Whelan's occupation of Zeal represents an invasion of Dasnurdity into the land of St. Ruick. Diria must not condone it, so I guess we're going to have to bring someone else. I do not ask for your commitment at this time, only that you will support Rizia when the moment arrives. We could try and play the field, I guess. But I'm not going to. Moving on. I cannot ignore the presence of... Oh, come on, man. Okay. I saw Hagel lean forward in his seat intently. I may not share Morella's worldview, yet I believe our citizen struggle are all one and the same. Given the ongoing exploitation happening in Morella, I am not surprised that Prime Minister Sultana has looked to the east for assistance. Rizia and Morella have maintained good relations for centuries. Yeah. Oh, damn. This is a tough one. I don't like any of these. I really don't want to... I mean... Volksland's pretty powerful. Having them on our side would be not worst. Specter of encroaching socialism does not scare me as much as the potential loss of our precious resources. Morella is free to choose its own political direction, but it cannot use those politics to wantonly lay waste to neighbors' economies. Meftian Trade Zone was established with the full agreement of all 4 countries involved, and only with their agreement can it be altered. We'll go with that. But Madam Prime Minister clearly has her heart set on a hostile takeover with Volksland's aid. But I may be honest, it makes the most sense for both Volksland and Lespia to end their involvement, as neither share a direct border with Morella. Okay with opening negotiations. I'll use this forum to warn Prime Minister Sultana that if she is looking for a fight, Rizia will give her one. How many people can we pick a fight with in this playthrough? If I may be honest, it makes the most sense for both her and... Okay. I'm just going to go with the most neutral one I could find. The Morellian and Volkslandian delegations broke into hushed whispers. President Nine gestured for silence again, then motioned for me to continue. I also urged Morella to rethink its stance towards Dirty and Golconda's prison. Having said that, I do stand with Morella against the dirty and extremist who seek to infiltrate our borders. I also believe a compromise can be reached regarding dirty as religious travelers. I'm going to side with her on this one. Supreme Wiseman Asmal, you speak of peace while pursuing advanced weaponry. Do your people not see the contradiction? The division of the former Empire of Meridia has pitted brother against brother. The violence must end. They have perverted the teachings of Saint Ruhek, and their form of worship cannot be tolerated. We'll go with this one. The Dirtian leader sat silently, a defiant look on his face. As for the so-called Grand Duchy, it is to my great dismay that my kingdom has been forced to quarrel with our closest neighbor. Duke Reinhardt has said he wants other nations to engage with Pales as equals. That is exactly what Rizia is doing. Despite the Duke's claim, Rizia is not the aggressor in the situation. The gas dispute is nothing less than a fight for South Merkopan's right to self-determination. We are engaging with them as equals. Calais sent a drill ship to disputed territory. Our response should not have come as a surprise. Cannot well paint us as a bully when you are backed by Lespia and thus the full strength of the ATO. If we truly wanted to intimidate Calais into giving up control of the gas field, we would have done so. My kingdom is not even asking for ownership of the entire field territory in question, only our rightful half. They sent the drill ship. I am convinced that a peaceful compromise can be reached with the AN's help. It is my hope that the AN Arbitration Committee ignores the emotional statements that have been made today and focuses on the facts. Let us not forget that the gas field would not have been discovered without our scientist initiative. As a sign of the AN Directive of Offshore Resources, we have the right to undersea gas within 200 kilometers of our coast. No matter which coast, Rizia still maintains ancient sovereignty over Pales. Ipso facto, the resources are ours as well. Our intelligence service submitted concrete proof of PLA cooperation. Not going to say that. Methods and all that. Okay. In light of that, we cannot promise we will abide by the AN's arbitration result. Of course, we will respect the arbitrations committee's ruling as long as it is fair. As long as it's fair. Chancellor Hegel, I was inspired by your courage in confronting the Lespian and Palesian delegations today. We could bribe them very publicly. Or say, hey, Merritt, you may have more in common than either of us suspected, but I do not welcome your support. Would you ever envision lending your support to a monarchy? I would not presume to ask for Volksland's support, but you have my respect. We go. Hegel's expression stayed the same. President Nine's motioned to the clock. My speech had gone over its runtime. I will conclude, don't rush a king, Mr. President, with these words. President Smolak was wrong. It is not the superpowers who are tearing us apart. We are doing it to ourselves. For too long we have let superpowers wield their influence over us. Times have changed. I am aware that Rizia stands nearly alone as a kingdom in a sea of republics. But in the end, we are still all humans under a single god. But our proud nation will not succumb to foreign pressure, but I hold out hope that we may find our way back to each other. But Rizia and our partners in grace are prepared to demonstrate that the monarchy still has significance in this modern way back to each other. And this Rizian saying, well done, Your Majesty. It'll take a while to digest the ramifications. Let's update on all of this once we're back in Rizia. Filing back out the assembly hall, I noticed the sound of rain on the dome had stopped. Another sunny day in Constantine. There we go. So we made our case. See what we have here. A lot of news articles to attend to here. Let's see. I think we're going to probably Romas the Red wine launch event. But I think we're going to wait until the next episode to get into any of this here. Including the news. That'll be a good refresher for beginning of the next episode. Yeah, I don't think it went too bad. I think we made our case fairly well. It's nice to see Wheland is as disliked as ever. Interesting turn of events with Hegel showing up to that. But we'll see how all that plays out in the future episode. Quick note before we go. I am probably going to be having a computer upgrade done at some point, so there may be a break in the content for a couple days as that takes place. Hopefully not too much, but never can tell when you put your technology in the hands of others how that may play out. So, like the results of that meeting, that's something we're going to have to wait to the future to find out. Anyway, if you like the episode, hit the like button. If you have any thoughts, tips, or advice, leave those in the comment section below. If you want to follow along through the Rizia DLC on Suzerain, as we play as King Romas Taurus, hit the subscribe, and we'll see you for our next episode. J76NY saying thank you very much for watching and have yourself a very good day.